Jamal Murray is lighting the NBA on fire throughout the 2023 playoffs, including 32.5 points per game in the Western Conference Finals while sweeping LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. But it was only a year ago that many were questioning if he would ever recover to be the player he once was before a catastrophic injury in 2021. Today in this video, we take a look at the initial rise, fall, and rise again of the NBA's most underrated player, Jamal Murray. And if you stay until the end, I'll try to answer the ultimate question: is Jamal Murray becoming an emerging superstar, or is he merely a good player that has the privilege of playing alongside the best player in the world? Drafted out of Kentucky at 7th overall in the 2016 NBA draft, Jamal Murray had a solid rookie season and was named to the All-NBA Rookie Second Team. Something not many know is he really wanted the Timberwolves to draft him at 5, but Tom Thibodeau chose Chris Dunn over him instead, which means if he would have had his way, he'd be playing in Chicago for the Bulls right now, as Chris Dunn was traded to them in the Jimmy Butler trade. Little did Jamal know that Denver was the perfect place for him to be. After his rookie season, he developed into a pretty good player over his next 2 years, averaging 18.2 points per game and shooting 36.7% from 3. The Nuggets finished second in the Western Conference that year and officially had an incredible young core centered around Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. While they eventually lost in the Western Conference semis in 7 games to the Trailblazers, Jamal had a really good postseason, averaging 21.3 points per game, and he was only 21 years old. The expectations continued to heighten for both Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets. But it wasn't until his 4th NBA season that we saw who he could truly become as a player. Although he had similar numbers in the regular season to the previous year, he absolutely exploded in the bubble. The Nuggets were the 3 seed in the Western Conference and were able to defeat both the Utah Jazz and the Los Angeles Clippers en route to the Western Conference Finals. Unfortunately, Jokic and Jamal were not enough as the LeBron AD Lakers defeated them in 5 games, but Jamal unlocked a whole new level to his game. In those playoffs, he averaged 26.5 points per game, 6.6 assists, 4.8 rebounds, and shot 45.3% from 3. This was a huge leap that he had made, and everyone was starting to regard that this Denver Nuggets team led by emerging superstars in Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray were going to be forces to be reckoned with for years to come in the Western Conference. Now, one important note to make is because of the pandemic, the NBA playoffs were played in September and October of 2020, which means the 2020-2021 season didn't start until late December. While teams were normally getting 4 to 5 month breaks in the offseason, this offseason was much shorter. And in result, NBA players collectively missed more time during this regular season than in any single year dating back to the 2009-2010 season. But Jamal Murray picked right back up where he left off, averaging 21.2 points per game and shooting 40.2% from 3 during the regular season. And up until the night of April 12th, 2021, the Nuggets had won 17 of 20 games and were soaring up the Western Conference standings. Down 111-104 versus the Golden State Warriors with about 50 seconds left, Jamal Murray aggressively drove down the lane and went down writhing in pain. I hesitate to show the full clip because it's really hard to watch and you can just see the devastation in his countenance as he's laying on the floor. The next morning, every Denver sports fan's worst fears were confirmed true. Jamal Murray had torn his ACL and was out indefinitely. And while the Nuggets were still able to hold on to the 3 seed in the Western Conference and beat Portland in the first round, they lacked Jamal's playmaking and rising to the occasion in the playoffs and ended up getting swept by the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference semis. Up until this point in the video, if you're a diehard NBA fan, most of this information isn't that new to you. But as I was doing research for this video, I was able to hear more about Jamal's journey to recovery. What it made me realize is that sometimes we don't understand the pain that an athlete goes through after an injury of this severity. All we think about is how big of a loss it is collectively for our team's ability to win. And then we see them on the court next season as if nothing had happened. But what we don't think about as fans is what goes through their head mentally in their journey to recovery. How psychologically hard it is to recover from an injury like this and the work that they have to put in. And not only was the recovery from the injury itself hard, but Jamal also stated that he wasn't able to see his family for over a year during the rehab process because of COVID restrictions. TSN did a really cool documentary covering Jamal and his family as he went through this process. If you want to check it out, I'll link it below. But the bottom line is that Jamal Murray was out for all of the 2021-2022 regular season, and the time frame he was aiming for a return was around the 2022 playoffs. To put even more pressure on his return, the Western Conference was loaded this year, and the Nuggets were definitely feeling his absence, finishing only as the 6th seed in the Western Conference. As much as he pushed to be ready for the postseason, it just didn't seem to be working out. He would conduct rigorous pregame workouts prior to playoff games, and behind the scenes, he played 5-on-5 against team staffers and bench players. But according to a league source, all the quick movements and quick twitch type things that's needed to guard guys in the NBA, he just wasn't able to do. Jamal even found himself not being able to jump up for rebounds during scrimmages. With a series looming versus the Golden State Warriors, Klay Thompson was asked about Jamal Murray's recovery, as Klay had just returned from a long recovery himself, and Klay was very adamant for Jamal not to risk his future on a premature return. And the pressure surrounding his return from fans, from the media, from everybody, almost caused Jamal to do just that. But his father, Roger Murray, and former Nuggets president Tim Connolly intervened, shutting him down for the rest of the season and taking all the pressure off. People were really frustrated and were starting to question Jamal's toughness. So much so that Jamal tweeted after a Game 2 loss, "Y'all don't think I want to be out there, huh? Crazy." And I can't imagine how frustrating it must have been to have your toughness questioned when your knee clearly is not ready. But he finally was able to make his return to begin the 2022-2023 season on October 3rd, a home game in front of the Denver crowd versus the Thunder. After 539 days, 18 months, Jamal Murray was again back on the court playing. The Nuggets had a fantastic season. Jamal had a really good season, averaging 20 points per game, a career-high 6.2 assists per game, and he shot 40% from three. But more importantly, the Nuggets clinched the #1 seed in the Western Conference for the first time in franchise history, going 53-29. All the talk about this championship window after the 2020 playoffs that was completely derailed by this injury was now back in the discussion 2 years later. But the real test was still ahead. Was Jamal Murray able to return to his 2020 playoff form? Would he rise to the occasion again? Or were the Nuggets a fake #1 seed without a star alongside arguably the league's best player? Would they fizzle out again in the conference semis or the conference finals? This video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, an app that allows you to predict higher or lower on individual NBA player stats. Here's an entry we won the other night for $250. Sign up now using code HARDWOOD. You get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Let's have some fun and make some money together during this NBA playoffs. Jamal Murray answered that question with an exclamation point in the opening round versus the Minnesota Timberwolves with a near triple-double in Game 1 of 24, 8, and 8, and then following it up with a 40-point game in Game 2. He was officially back. He then had somewhat of a down series, at least for him, versus the Phoenix Suns in the conference semis, averaging 24.8 points per game, but Denver was able to put away Devin Booker and Kevin Durant in 6 games. In a clean sweep of the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, Jamal Murray had the best playoff series of his career, and he was nothing short of stellar, averaging 32.5 points per game on 52.5% shooting and 40% from three, while still averaging 6.3 assists and 5.3 boards. It's safe to say not only is Jamal Murray back, he's better than ever. This playoff run he's currently on has him teetering on all NBA levels right now. Knowing everything that he's been through, it makes me so happy to see him back on the court and playing at an incredibly high level. As a whole, through the Western Conference Finals of this 2023 playoffs, he's averaging 27.7 points per game, 6.1 assists, 5.5 boards, and shooting 40% from three. But it's not just that. When you watch him on the court, his sheer shot making has been unbelievable. I'm not sure how you can defend this. I can't state enough how massive these 2023 playoffs have been for Jamal Murray. As I'm recording this video, the NBA Finals between the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat is currently 2 games in, with the series split at 1-1. While in the first game, it looked like Denver was going to roll in this series, winning 104-93. Coach Eric Spoelstra had some very key adjustments, resulting in a narrow 111-108 win. We'll see how the rest of this series plays out, but if the Denver Nuggets can win an NBA championship, I don't think it's crazy to say, number one, that Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are the best duo in the NBA, and number two, that Jamal Murray is officially a superstar. I'm not that concerned with his regular season numbers. They're good enough, but the best players in the NBA have a whole nother level in the playoffs, and Jamal Murray has been proving that again in 2023. If you enjoyed this video, I just did one on Joel Embiid Exposed, the MVP who can't win. I think you'll like it. We'll see you on the next one.